Welcome back to another episode of Glory Reds podcast. It's me, Dee, joined with Benito. What's up,
Was
my
good.
guy?
Was good, Pastor D. Was good, man.
Yeah, man. It's UCL season. We're finally back in the Champions League with Eric Ten Hag. How do you feel about it, my guy?
Nah, man, I won't lie to you. I feel good, man. It feels good to be back in the Champions League. I don't know.
Yeah,
This time around it feels different. We feel stable because we have Eric Ten Hag, but I feel good, man. I feel good. I feel good being back in the Champions League, man. It sucked always waiting for Thursday night football, instead of the normal time football, So yeah, man, feels good.
yeah. No, it definitely feels good to be back in the Champions League, and I can, attest to that as well. And to your point, like I think previously when we were in the Champions League, we never had so much confidence being in that competition, given the managers that we had at that point, the players that we had at that point. But I know a lot of that stuff hasn't been fixed. We're not
Yeah,
necessarily going into the Champions team with the strongest team compared to the other teams out there, but just based on the experience of our manager, it gives us a little bit of a boost of confidence. Plus, with potential signings that we still have to complete by tomorrow, crossing fingers, this season could be a good season for us.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, man. So we just from watching the draw. Could you give us like a rundown of what the what you call it, the group stages are looking like, and the teams and which groups have been placed in?
Okay. So I'm just gonna speed through everything because we don't wanna bore our listeners with the nitty gritties. But in Group A, which is our group, which is a low key. If you're a United fan, you understand that it's a very kind of difficult game. There's only like one team on there that we are like, but the other two are a bit of a problem. But here we go. Group A, we have Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Copenhagen, and Galatasaray. In Group B, we have Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV Eindhoven, and RC Lens or Lons or Lawns, however you want to pronounce it. Group C,
Yeah.
we have Napoli, Real Madrid, Braga, and Union Berlin. Group D, we have Benfica, Inter Milan, Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. Group E, we have Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic. Group F, which is the group of D, of the group of death, is PSG, Borussia Dortmund, AC Milan, and the newcomers, Newcastle United. In Group G, we have the champions, the current holders, Man City, RB Leipzig, Red Star Belgrade, and Young Boys. In my opinion, they've just given Man City an easy move to the group stages, but that's a topic for another day. And then in Group H, we have Barcelona, FC Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Royal Antwerp. So yeah, man, those are the teams, man. Those are the groups and the teams. What caught your eye, D? What caught you there? Like what group caught your fancy there, bro?
Yeah, man, a lot of interesting groups, and we haven't been in the Champions League for quite a long time. But just from first glance, it's quite evenly spread in terms of difficulty
True.
levels. I mean, in some groups it is fairly easy for some teams, and in some groups it's very difficult. Like you mentioned, Group F, the group of death with PSG, Dortmund, AC Milan, Newcastle. That's definitely going to be an interesting group. Newcastle are in the Champions League, the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to fare into the competition.
Hmm.
And it's just unfortunate that they've been thrown into the mix, with very difficult teams, formidable teams. And when you look at the teams, I think it's only PSG that haven't won a Champions League in that group. Correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Dortmund
True.
have won a Champions League, yeah?
Yeah.
Did they win Champions League?
Maybe back in them days, but I'm sure they have. Yeah.
But anyway, we'll cross reference that and check it out. But yeah, our group is also very interesting as well.
Yeah.
We're facing Bayern. We don't have a good track record against Bayern. Bayern is a team in the past that would usually face in the round of 16. So it's quite
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
that we're going to be facing them before round of 16. So that's going to be a very interesting group to look at. City group as well. Interesting in the fact that they're the champions, and in all fairness, they don't really have difficult teams that they're going to be playing against. So I think they're going to breeze quite easily through that.
Yeah.
Looking at Group B as well with Arsenal, Seville, very competitive team as well. Champions League this season, they do very well in the Europa Champions League. So, to be interesting to see how that battle will take place in that group. And yeah, man, I think just from first glance, those are probably the groups that I'll be paying a lot of attention to. What
Yeah.
about you? What are the groups that you're interested in looking at?
Okay. So for me, I don't know. Group E looks like a low key group of death because they're Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic. And when I say that it's a low key um, group of death, I'm looking at the atmosphere that a lot of these teams, especially these teams, the atmosphere they bring. So this group E is going to be very, very interesting when they go home and away because all the atmospheres are going to play a huge role in
Yeah,
this group. Man City, you've already talked about it. You said that they're going to, man, this is an easy path for them. I don't care what anybody says. We might
yeah,
say that it was fixed or anything like that, but nah, man, this was like, this is very easy for them. Group B, Sevilla and Arsenal is a very interesting one because I actually tipped those two to actually progress in that group because unless something happens and if Sevilla gets knocked back to Europa, those in Europa League, they better be careful because those guys will win the Europa again. People must watch out.
yeah,
But yeah, and then there's Group D, man, with Benfica, Inter Milan, Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. Very interesting, like very, very interesting distribution of teams. Like you mentioned, it looks evenly spread. It's not like before
yeah,
when we look at the Champions League draw and think, nah, these guys have got it wrong. These guys have done something, something like that. But this time around,
yeah.
it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, yeah,
Uh, All right, so let's talk a little bit about that group of death. As we mentioned, um, newcomers, Newcastle, it's going to be very competitive for them. I just checked with Dortmund; they did win the Champions League. They recently, well, not recent, but let me just say the recent date for them when they won it was in '97, beating Juventus in the final. So we have
okay,
AC Milan, Champions League winners, Borussia Dortmund, PSG, of course, still looking to win their first Champions League title. Going to be a
yeah.
bit difficult for them this season, losing a lot of their star players, Lionel Messi, Neymar, Mbappe. Is Mbappe still at PSG? What's going on there, man? I
No,
completely lost track of that story.
Mbappe is about to sign a new deal until
Yeah,
2026, and there'll be a release clause. So he
yeah,
will sign so that in case when Real Madrid want to buy him next season, they'll
yeah,
have to pay. They'll have to pay because he was gonna work for free. So he's gonna
yeah.
sign a new contract, but he's definitely leaving for Real Madrid next season.
All right. So yeah, man. So yeah, PSG, of course, like I said, lost a lot of players.
Yeah,
But they're still looking, to win their first ever Champions League. Will it be this season? I don't know. But yeah, I think, let's talk a little bit more about Newcastle, right?
yeah,
Like we mentioned, first time in a long time in the Champions League.
yeah.
They really got a challenging task ahead of them. How do you think they're gonna fare in this group stage?
I actually think they're going to fare very well. I know
All
it
right.
sounds strange to people to say. I think they are the dark horse in that group of death. They're the ones that are going to upset. I mean, they're the underdogs when you think about it in terms of the name right now. But
Yeah.
then, based on how they are playing and how much they've invested and all of that stuff, I think they're gonna give these teams a run for their money, especially with their style of play. These guys look hungry. They're not a pushover. Yes, they got
Yeah.
beaten by Newcastle. I mean, by Liverpool, but in Europe it's different. For some reason in Europe games are different. That's why I even fancy Man United to go progress very far because of our manager. So I think Newcastle is going to do very well. I think they're going to give PSG a headache. I think they're going to give all those teams a headache. I actually don't
Yeah.
even think Borussia Dortmund is going to put that much of a fight. So yeah, I actually tip in that group of death. This is weird. This is how I'm going to
Okay.
go with it. I'm going to go Newcastle first,
All right.
PSG second, AC
Okay.
Milan third, Borussia Dortmund fourth. That's just me predicting how I think. It's weird, but I think
Yeah.
Newcastle is going to take the fight to the big boys. They want to play with the big boys. They are going to bring the big boy kind of.
The big boy energy.
Yeah, they're going to bring the big boy energy. Plus, they've got the
Yeah.
money to back. I wouldn't be surprised now that they know that they're in the group of death. This last minutes, that Prince Mohammed bin Samal just decide, hey, let me just drop a couple of hundreds there. Just get whoever you want. Just let's flex. Let's take these boys to the Champions League.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be very interesting.
Yeah, no, true. I 100% agree with your sentiments. And, I think the only concern that I probably have is looking at Newcastle's squad depth, for
Yeah,
one. And
yeah,
number two, obviously they've had recent success in the terms of finishing high in, the English Premier League. And my only concern is that now that, they're at a stage where they really need to, how can I put it? Like they really need to step up to the plate,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And obviously now they're going to be involved in more demanding competitions than what they're used to in the past. So, I mean,
yeah,
obviously we have the Premier League that they're going to be competing in. They're going to be involved in the FA Cup and now also the Champions League. And, the Champions League, given the group that they're in,
yeah,
it's not going to be, oh, okay, we're gonna um, maybe not to the sense of not go hard, but
yeah.
it's going to be a different type of experience for them to keep that high levels of competitive energy, coming into this season. So my only worry is, will they be able to keep up with that high level of energy, and really dominating that space, to continue building on what they've already started building in the Premier League. But with that being said, I'm also confident that they're going to finish high in that group. So I'm not going to really predict an order like what you have
All right.
done, but I will say that I would agree with you in the terms of I do think they will advance from the group stages. I think they have the ability to take on these clubs, and these clubs are not really the teams that they were in the previous seasons.
Mhm.
So I do believe that they can finish first or second in that group. And then yeah, I don't know. I don't really watch so much of the other clubs, and I don't know how they're really faring in their own domestic league. So
Mhm.
at this point, I can't really predict to say who will finish above one or the other. But yeah, I think Newcastle will really fare well in this group. So yeah, let's have another look at City's group. Yeah,
Yeah,
because we did
yeah,
mention before that City, right now, the champions, first time winning a Champions League with Pep Guardiola. They've really been striving to achieve this. The team, and the manager, and the club itself, and they finally managed to do that. Of course, with their boy Erling Haaland. They're missing De Bruyne, but I don't really think that's going to be a huge problem because they're not facing competitive sides. How do you think they're going to fare in that group?
man, that is a trick question, my guy, because those guys are going to win.
Yeah,
Man City is going to blaze through that group easy. I mean, there might be a few rocky starts, but even if they do finish second because of maybe a couple of poor performances because they're missing a couple of players, they are definitely going to make it through. So
yeah,
that one. I don't see City getting knocked out. I don't see City going into the Europa League, man. Like that'll be, it's almost like blasphemy. And because
yeah,
they've already tasted success, last season those players, they know what it feels to win a treble. The treble is the pinnacle. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's the
yeah,
pinnacle of, it's the ultimate winning streak that you can ever go through. And those players are still there. They know what it feels to get to win. So they're just
yeah,
going to go there with the chip on their shoulder and be like, we've been there, we've done that, we've got the T-shirt, and we've done it. And then they'll just carry on from there. So Man City, are definitely going through. It's gonna be interesting seeing them play against RB Leipzig since they just bought Vardiol from them. So you can imagine already Vardiol has to face his boys again. It's gonna be interesting. But oh
True.
man, young boys, Red Star Belgrade. Like man, this is man. They'll be scoring 6, 7 goals. These guys, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see how it pans out, man.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about Group H with Barcelona. Barcelona back in Champions League action.
Yeah,
Just to touch a little bit on transfer news, one of their proclaimed star players, you would know better, Ansu Fati, is
yeah,
about to complete a loan deal to Brighton. Do you
Brighton.
think that, yeah, talk to me a little bit more about Barcelona. You would know more about this. Is it a wrong decision from Barcelona's side? Obviously, not the back in the Champions League, or do you think that they can manage without him and they have the player capacity to see themselves out of this group stage?
Well, I mean, it's very interesting to see that we actually made this loan deal. That Barcelona made this loan deal with Brighton, and I can understand the logistics because when you look at how they play, they're both kind of like similar. And De Zerbi has got this style of play where he wants very fast wingers, so it makes sense in that term in those terms. But for Ansu Fati, he has found himself down the pecking order in terms of wingers. And
Okay.
there's this young sensation, this young boy, Yamal, 16 years old, my guy. Keep an eye out for that boy. He's causing all sorts of problems, man. So I think
Yeah.
he lost. I think him losing that to the youngster. I think maybe it's like, nah, man, I need to be playing football because these players like to play in national team duty and all that stuff. So it won't be a miss for Barcelona with Ansu Fati, honestly.
All
It
right.
won't be a miss. Yeah, yeah. It'd actually
All
be
right.
good for him to go out there and play. My worry is that is he going to be able to keep his fitness, like to remain fit, because the Premier League is a different beast. We always talk
Yeah.
about how it is. You are
Yeah.
exposed when you come to the Premier League, but I trust that De Zerbi is going to sort him out and put him in the right position to do the business.
All right. No, I hear you. I hear you. Well, we can't speak about Barcelona without speaking about Real Madrid. Real Madrid have been dominating this
Hey,
Champions League for the past decade.
hey,
That's one team that you just can't rule out. But interestingly enough, they've
yeah,
lost one of their star strikers, Karim Benzema. So right now they're without a striker.
Karim Benzema.
Um, yes,
Benzema is in Saudi Arabia, my guy.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Real Madrid don't have him anymore.
I thought you meant like they lost him because of injury.
No, like he's
Oh,
gone. He's, he's left the
okay.
club. You know
My
what I
bad,
mean?
my bad.
And he has really been a star player for them in this competition. In this competition, sorry.
That's true.
So without Benzema in the mix, how do you think they will fare? Like I know the team is still looking strong.
Yeah,
We got and they also do sort of have an aged team. Obviously they did bring in Jude Bellingham, which is he has been an absolute phenomenal for them. This season, and he seems to be the guy who is going to be the one that they're looking towards to carry them to the
yeah.
final, almost like how City got in Erling Haaland last season. And we sort of predicted this. I don't know if you predicted, but I had a conversation with one of my friends, and I told them that if City complete the Erling Haaland deal, they are definitely going to win the Champions League, and
It's a
they did
wrap.
so. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And now
yeah,
looking at Jude, obviously completely different player from Erling Haaland, but he
yeah,
does contribute a lot um to the team of Real
yeah.
Madrid. Very formidable player in that midfield. But like I said, they do not have a striker. Do you think that's something that will compromise them or cost them? Once they advance past this group stage.
Okay. I mean, Real Madrid is Real Madrid. They are the dons of the competition. The experience that they have in that squad is just immense. Every single player there has been playing in the Champions League the past, I don't know how many seasons. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's a different it's not like it's something new. Unlike for other teams where the players experiencing Champions League for the first, they're experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah,
So I think with Real Madrid are going to bring that experience factor into their
yeah,
mix, but they have concerns. Like like Vinicius is injured. He's been
yeah,
diagnosed with some thigh injury. I don't know what that is. When they say diagnosed, it almost felt like it is some, I don't know, weird something. I don't know what's going on.
yeah,
So I don't know if, and then they've got like an aging squad sort of, and they've got these youngsters who are still trying them stuff, like trying stuff out. It's
yeah,
not the vintage Real Madrid that you're going to get. You're going to
yeah.
get a Real Madrid that is full of youngsters who have experience, but are still
True.
trying to gel in and find that right formula to continue dominating Europe as they usually do. My
Yeah,
only the striker situation is, I mean, they've brought in this Joselu guy. He is coming to fill in that void, but I don't know if he's going to be fit enough because he's kind of they say he's old, but he's good. The guy who scored the
yeah,
basketball kick against us,
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, Real Madrid will always be Real Madrid. Whether they'll always grind out. They are so annoying sometimes. As a Barca fan, like when you see how Blancos do their thing, you look at
yeah,
one game like the whole 45 minutes or 60 minutes. There's nothing happening with Real Madrid. Then
yeah,
from nowhere, this experience, this beast comes out, and then Blancos just start taking control, and then last minute,
yeah,
bang, 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 bang. And then it's just then they're through. Then you just find them in the final, and you'll be like, how? Then you'll be like, nah,
yeah,
experience. And everybody's like, well, nah, they know how to win games in the Champions League. So
yeah,
that being said, I just think this is going to be a cakewalk for Real Madrid. I would
yeah.
be shocked if they don't make it out of this group. I
Group
really
stage,
will.
yeah.
Yeah, so I expect them to make it through. Really.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And UCL just seems to be the playground for strikers. I mean,
Yeah,
you usually find in the Champions League that the teams that do progress far, is due to the strikers. So
yeah,
this just seems to be the league that just gets the best out of all the team strikers and where they really want to put their foot down and show how good they are to the world.
yeah,
So yeah, that's why I was saying that, with Madrid and not having a formidable striker up front, like
yeah,
yeah, we can see them comfortably getting past this group stage, but it may be a little bit of a concern moving outside of that. But yeah, let's talk more about our teams from the Premier League that are involved in this competition.
yeah,
Obviously, one of them is Arsenal in Group
yeah.
B. It seems to be a fairly balanced group. How do you
Okay.
think they're gonna fare in in the competition? Because they also haven't been in the Champions League for quite a while, so they're back in the Champions League. They're playing very well. They've
Yeah.
bought very good signings. What does it look like for Arsenal in Group B?
Arsenal, you know what's funny? Because of last season, the way they started off, they kind of like spoiled people, and people always they always forget. Not that okay, no, they don't forget that there are certain things that they forget, and there are certain things that they don't. So right now, everybody remembers how Arsenal were blistering last season, and this time around, they haven't really gotten into gear. So there's a little bit of question marks on how they'll progress. You'll be surprised. They might actually not make this group. They might not because we don't know. But if Arsenal is going to bring the same Arsenal from last season, which we haven't seen yet, which
Yeah,
is also like, well, what's going on?
yeah,
Are people actually talking about this as much as they should? Because I don't think people are actually paying attention to how the slump on Arsenal. They're not blistering like last season. I watched that first game against Crystal Palace when they won, and Saka got his goal, and Martinelli did that thing. Yes, that was it. But I mean, those were moments of brilliance. But other than that,
mm,
and you playing against Sevilla, a team that is high flying, like they don't mess around when they play. They played
yeah,
against City in the Europa Super Cup.
yeah,
They made City right up until extra time penalties, that kind of thing.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
they are, I actually think Sevilla are the favorites for that group.
Okay.
I wouldn't know much about PSV and Lens. I mean, Lens, I think they will not make it. But PSV, I don't know much about them. They've got
Yeah.
good players, but I don't know much about them.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. And let's talk a little bit about Group E. which you
Yeah.
mentioned is your underdog. How did you put it? Your underdog group of death,
Underground.
underground group of
Yeah,
death that
underground.
people are not paying attention to. So yeah, why do you feel that way?
Because when I look at the clubs, like these clubs have got history,
Yeah.
especially Celtic. You look at Lazio, Feyenoord in Turkey. That side, it's got a very big fan base. All these clubs that you see here have got a
Mm,
very big following, like a very big um the atmosphere in their stadium. Like I don't know why. I think one of the first things that came into my mind was the atmospheres that they're going to produce, and because of that, I just felt like it's going to be a group of death. Because when each team goes to each club, they might struggle when they are playing away. I don't know if
yeah.
that makes any sense,
Yeah. No,
but
I get you. It's like the playing ground is evenly
yes,
balanced throughout the teams, and like you said, each of them have that strong, you know, fan base. So
yes,
the crowds, the atmosphere will be amazing when each of these teams go and visit each other and play against each other, and the competition between the teams is not so far off,
no,
you know.
yes,
So we're gonna get very good football in that group because match after match, if you're a betting man, it's not gonna be a clear cut who's gonna who's gonna take the
yes.
victory,
You
you
got
know.
me, D. You got
So
me.
it's gonna be a crazy group to look out for and see which team is actually gonna be coming up top in
Yeah,
that group. All
yeah,
right, no, I hear you. And yeah, man, I think let's get to our group now. I think we've spoken enough about the other groups that we think are very interesting and ones to watch out from. But let's talk a little bit about our group. As I mentioned before, Manchester United, we usually meet up with FC um, Bayern Munich, in the round of 16, and usually, they knock us out. I don't remember the last time we met Bayern in the round of 16 and and we went through. You know what I mean? It has
yeah,
always been a difficult fixture for us. They just got Harry Kane, bolstered up the squad. He's already settled in. He's already started. He's already firing in the goals. So yeah, I mean, obviously they have Thomas Muller. They played a game recently, and I think one of the commentators was mentioning that Thomas Muller, for the first time in whatever, is actually not on the starting 11. So Muller is past his time, but not to say that he's still not a good player. But just looking at some of the veteran players or some of the players that we faced when we used to be in the Champions League, because I don't think right now, apart from him and the keeper, we're going to be facing the same Bayern squad that we faced, and vice versa. I mean, we're a completely different squad, new manager. So it's almost like we are starting afresh. You know what I mean? We're almost like pushing a reset button
yeah,
on, in terms of going into that fixture to say, look, we're two completely different squads, two completely different, eras of football. You know, they're still obviously the stronger team at the moment between the two, but yeah, like, how do you think the games are gonna fare out between us and Munich? I mean, look, I don't want to rule out the other teams. I don't want to rule out FC Copenhagen and Galatasaray, but I'm sure most people want to believe that the way the group is set up right now, that's probably how it's going to end up, with Bayern Munich finishing first in the group and then Manchester United second. Do
yeah.
you think this is an accurate depiction of what the group table will probably look like at the end of the group stage?
Hey, that's a very difficult question, D. But I'm glad you've asked me because I would change for the time being. I would put Galatasaray on third position to
All
Copenhagen
right. Yeah.
because Galatasaray are the team that I didn't want. Like I was praying, like I was not praying, but I was hoping when I was watching the draw that we don't get them because this new Galatasaray is a very interesting and they seem like they're going to be a dark horse for us. They have
Yeah.
made very good and very interesting signings this season, and they're a team to watch in Europe right now. So it will be interesting to see how we're going to fare with them because I would hope that we beat them. But then, just based on how Galatasaray have done business and the squad they're cooking up there in Turkey, I
Yeah.
am I am a little bit worried. I really am.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, Bayern Munich, like you said, bro, Bayern Munich, we've had history with them. I feel like we are moving into a new era. Like we're leaving that past behind because we haven't faced them in a while. I mean, the
Yeah.
history will always be there. Those
True.
commentators are always going to bring out the stats of how they
Yeah.
beat us or how we beat them. They're going to bring out the 99 Champions League final where Ole
Yeah.
did his thing. It's going to
Yeah.
be all over the thing. They're going to talk about that stuff. But
100%.
the truth of the matter is, like, we've moved past that. Like, this is now a different era. As
Yeah.
for Bayern Munich, I mean, they have much more experience because they have constantly been in the Champions League. I don't think there was a time when they've dropped out of the Champions League. Now,
Yeah.
for us, we feel like we're newcomers, even though we are all veterans. But it
Yeah.
feels like we're newcomers, new squad, new manager
Yeah.
coming in there. So it's gonna be a very interesting battle. But if
Yeah.
we're going to continue playing the way we're playing, if we're not going to make the signings that we're going to make, it's going to be another one of those FC Bayern Munich trash Barcelona 8-2, that
Yeah.
kind of nonsense. Like, we don't want that at Old Trafford. Like,
True.
like those are the things that are creeping into my mind. Like, those are the things that are making me scared right now. But yeah, man. And also, something that made me laugh so much was the fact that, like, with this Gravenberg situation, we
Yeah.
want this player, we want him to come in and fill this situation, and then here we are facing the club that he will be sitting bench if he doesn't come through. He might make a cameo, just to show them that no, we actually wanted to play him. It's not like he's just chowing bench. Then they
Yeah.
put him against us, and then Ryan Gravenberg goes there and does a masterclass in the midfield, and then people will be like, "Oh, United should have done more to bring in the player." Nah, 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 nah. While he's
Yeah.
chowing bench for all that nonsense. So, but I actually think we're gonna fare very well. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Man United, and I know might sound biased or anything like that. I just have this feeling because of my gaffer. I trust in my gaffer. I just have this
Yeah.
feeling like we could reach the round of 16 or even the quarterfinals. Like, and that'll be
Yeah.
good, especially with the for a start. Like, that'll be a good starting point, and then we'll take it from there. If we make it into the last 16, then the next time we're in the Champions League, we have to make sure we're in the quarterfinal or semifinal, and then it's just progression, progression, progression until we finally win
Yeah.
this coveted trophy, man. Like, it's been a while. It's been a minute, D.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a minute. So yeah, man, that's my take, dog.
All right. No, I hear you. I hear you. And the only way I see ourselves out of this group stage is if we beat Copenhagen and Galatasaray home and away. I think that's the
Yes,
only way we're getting through. If
yes,
we just lose or draw one of those games, I think it's gonna be a long group stage for us because Bayern is
yes,
definitely gonna be finishing on top without a doubt. So we just need to make sure we get the job done against Copenhagen and against Galatasaray, and we need to go in strong.
my man, my
We're
man.
really going to be depending on our strikers to be fit this season for us to
Yeah,
have any hope of getting out of this group stage and progressing as far as possible um, in the competition. So yeah,
yeah,
man, I think I would also have it your way of Bayern finishing first, us second, Galatasaray, and then FC Copenhagen. I
yeah,
think that's also how I would predict the group to finish. So yeah, and then obviously going to round of 16, I guess our only saving grace is that because we're meeting Bayern now, we're not gonna meet them in the group or in the round of 16, you know. So at
yeah,
least we're getting them over and done with early, and then
yeah,
obviously the possibilities of us meeting the other teams that we're gonna find in the round of 16, and just having a quick glance at some of the potential clubs that we can face. I don't think it's really that bad because I really don't see like a lot of good competitive top teams in this Champions League this season.
yeah,
Yeah, probably. Yeah, okay, I'll get more into that later when we're doing our predictions. But yeah, I think if we go into the round of 16, I do think we stand a chance of going by past the round of 16 and going into the quarters. And then, yeah, I see us getting that far. Yeah,
yeah,
I see us getting there, and then it's just gonna be roll of the dice,
yeah, yeah,
in terms of what will happen.
Yeah,
So that's how far I think, just having a glance at it, I think we can make it into the quarterfinals.
yeah.
How far did you say you think we could go?
I think we'll go to the quarterfinals too, man. Like that's what I was thinking because
Yeah.
um I looked at it in the sense that Eric Ten Hag is a very good one game tactician. You know,
Okay.
like this Champions League is going to be good in terms of that we don't have to play a lot of games with the very high same intensity and tempo with like what you're going to experience in the Premier League. So you're gonna be facing different styles, different tempos. Like you're gonna be facing a team in the Champions League. It's like a one-off thing. It's almost like you're playing a final every time. So it's gonna
Yeah.
be like he's going to be planning to a final every game, home and away. He will be trying to, and because I know Eric Ten Hag is good with that, I feel like we'll make it right up until the quarterfinals. And then now, when we start meeting the big boys, I'm sure by that time, if we don't make the right signings, we'll have injury issues, and then we'll be now putting players and placing them in positions that they don't like. You know, we'll be now just paxing players, like you know what I mean, just trying
Yeah.
to make a squad so it sticks there and just pray and hope. But if everything goes our way, like we can really go far in this Champions League. I really because you asked me a question. I don't know if you've asked me this question, but I actually put my top three people to win the Champions League. I actually mentioned United. So
Okay.
naively, like in a very naive way and very biased, but at the same time, trying to be a little bit logical and trusting and thinking and hoping that it will go my way.
Yeah.
So yeah, Man United is actually in my top three of teams that might win the Champions League.
All right. I think now that we're talking about it, I think, yeah, let's hear your predictions of your favorite top three that could possibly go and win the Champions League. Obviously, these are very premature
Yes.
predictions. Anything can change during the seasons. Of course, the transfer market is still on. A lot of stuff can happen in between and around. But yeah, right now it's going to be having a lot of premature predictions. So, what do you think? Who do you think the top three favorites are right now as we stand to win the Champions League?
Okay, so for me, as we stand, just as you said, premature predictions. I've gone with Man City as my number one pick that might win,
Okay.
and number two, I've gone with Bayern Munich, and then
Okay.
with number three, I've gone with Man United.
Okay.
And with the Man
Um,
United one, I'm saying it with my chest.
all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so why do you think um what you call this? Why have you given your favorites to was it Bayern? You said Bayern your first, yeah?
Now, City.
City. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think City are the favorites again to go and
I,
win it?
I just feel like they're just gonna pick up from where they left off in the Champions League. They're going to come off with a different swagger. They've got new signings that are coming in that are going to change a little bit of how they play. Pep Guardiola has got a lot in his arsenal, you know what I mean? And the fact that he has tasted that, I don't know. I just feel like they're going to be the favorites just
Okay.
because of them being the current champions. I just feel like they're going to ride with that wave and continue with that momentum because they've tasted victory. They know how it is to win the Champions League. They want to win the Champions League again because remember, City are they're new. They're like rookies, they're babies. So
Yeah.
winning their first Champions League, it was a taste. Now they want to go for it again, again, and again. So I feel like Man City are going to I don't know. They're my favorites to win, unless otherwise.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Now I hear
What about
you.
you?
Yeah, so for me, I'm finding it very difficult to decide who's gonna win it in terms of third place. So first I have Bayern Munich to take it,
Okay.
to win the Champions League. Second place I have Man City. And then in third place, I'm having a look around and I'm really not sure who to put in that mix. Because honestly, I think this season of Champions League, I think the strongest teams without question is probably Bayern Munich and Man City. And I think any other team that's gonna come against those two teams, after the group stages are not going to watch quarters to be able to get bypass them. So I see either one of those two finding each other in the final,
Okay.
or if they might meet up before the final, then I'm not sure who will get the best of who. But yeah, I'm definitely giving it to Bayern Munich. City, they're still a strong team, best playing team in Europe, but they have sold players. You know what I mean? They have got a lot, and not say they don't have, they still have good amount of players left in the squad, but I think they lost a lot of key players that I think made a big difference to how their season turned out last season. The likes of Riyad Mahrez, leaving the club. Is it Cancelo? Diaz is left. You're looking at Gundogan, who is left. Currently, we have De Bruyne, who is injured. And these are all key players to the squad. Yeah, they still have Bernardo Silva, they still have Grealish, but I still think that they're missing a good chunk of that squad depth that they need, you know what I mean, to carry them throughout the whole season, given obviously all the other competitions that they're gonna be involved in, because we know how Pep is. The other competitions he usually likes to use other players. You look at FA Cup, Carabao Cup, all those other competitions, he would give a place to those players, and then reserve his hard hitting players for the bigger league. But because they do not have that big squad anymore, I think that's what probably would make Bayern the favorites, advancing to the final. And if they do meet City, I think that they will beat City in the final. So yeah, I'm giving it to Bayern. Second, like I said, City, best playing team in the league. In Europe. They're always going to be strong going into this competition, and I think they've gained that momentum of what I mean, like
Yeah.
winning back to back. They're comfortable with each other. Peppers, he always has a system going on. He's brought in players that fit into that system, and yeah, I don't really think they're going to find any difficulties in the competition this season. Third place, I know saying Real Madrid is a cop out, but I will give it to them only because of Jude Bellingham. I really think that he'll be a positive impact in that team. I think he'll be the differential player for the team in the Champions League. And yeah, like I said, I think you have your top tier clubs, which is Bayern Munich and City, and then probably right under them, we're looking at Real Madrid. I'm gonna put Arsenal there. I'm gonna put us, and I'll put Barcelona, PSG, and then right
Inter.
under them, Inter as well. Sorry, Inter Milan as well. I've missed it over here. And then yeah, I think everybody else, will fall in that third tier. I think the only reason why I haven't put us is because we're just lacking that consistency.
Yeah.
And I think Ten Hag still hasn't yet got it right in that midfield. Plus, we have injuries. Plus, we're still waiting to bring in signings. So I just think that out of all the other teams, they are more organized going into this competition. They're more prepared for now, and for the longevity of the tournament. And I think by the time we sort of get it right, so to say, I don't know if it'll be a little bit too late, but time will tell. And yeah, I think the top three, in chronological order: Borussia Dortmund, Man City, Real Madrid.
And interesting. You talked about Man City and Bayern Munich. Last season when I was watching the Champions League, and I don't know if a lot of people paid attention to this, Man City were lucky to win the Champions League because they would have been knocked out by Bayern Munich because they
Yeah,
knocked out Bayern Munich. That
yeah,
game, those two home and away games, hey, if Bayern Munich had a striker,
yeah,
City were done.
yeah,
They were done. So
yeah.
it's very interesting to, yeah, I mean,
And now they are that missing piece of to the puzzle. You know what I mean?
bro,
And they've
they've
got
got
squad
double O
depth.
seven. Hey,
Yeah,
hey.
so I guess they just have to cross their fingers that Kane is gonna be fit, for the entirety of the season. So I don't know what Bundesliga, does in terms of not does, but in terms of physicality compared to the Premier League, So maybe it will be much more less
Intense.
intense for, you know what I mean, in the
Yeah,
league, which will enable him to carry out his fitness throughout the whole of the Champions League competition. So
yeah.
making that move there, might play in his favor in terms of how he gets injured this season, because we all know Harry Kane is injury prone. So yeah, I think behind the key thing is just to keep him fit. So it's just unfortunate that they don't have who's the other striking option?
For Bayern Munich.
Yeah,
I mean, they altered, they change. Sometimes they put Gnabry up there. Sometimes they put Leroy Sane up there. They
yeah,
change. They don't really
yeah,
have a focal. Harry Kane was the missing piece that because they lost Lewandowski.
yeah,
So Harry Kane was the missing piece that they needed, a striker, and they have
yeah.
him. I just don't know
And
if they've got a backup striker.
yeah, and
Yeah.
strikers are very difficult to find nowadays. They're they're shorting, they're high commodity, and a lot of these top clubs unfortunately only have like one really good striker, and they just have to rely on that striker to be fit. And once that striker gets injured, it poses a huge problem. And yeah, so maybe if our strikers can stay fit, you never know. Maybe they might shock us.
Hey. Oh,
They might
United.
shock us.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, but anyway, I think that's basically it. We just wanted to cover the Champions League draw, talk a little bit about the groups, how we're gonna fare, give our predictions. We're back in the Champions League. We're excited. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. It feels
um,
good.
back to that midweek football. No longer waiting for Thursday.
Nah, nah, no
Thursday night
more.
football. You know, and
Because
yeah,
it used to be Thursday night football and then we play on Sunday.
exactly.
It was always
Nah,
annoying
man, it
playing on
sucks. It
Sunday.
sucks.
Like we wanted to
Yeah,
play off on
yeah,
Saturday.
yeah, yeah,
Enjoy, get some
yeah,
Premier
man.
League games out so that we can chill and watch those that are in the Europa struggle
Exactly. Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean. They're still tired. Like yeah,
Exactly.
like, yeah.
But now I hear you. But anyway, any final remarks before we wrap this one up?
Nah, man. I feel good. I feel good. I'm happy we're back. I just hope that we do well. I hope that we bring back that atmosphere back at Old Trafford. You know what I mean? Even for the fans, we need that Champions League. When you hear that Champions League song, these are the champions. You get the vibes, man. You get that tingling sensation.
Yeah,
We want that, and seeing
of
our
missing out.
badge and our club, representing. Man, it feel good, and I just hope the boys are up for the challenge because we are really we are overestimating their potential by predicting that they can go far. So we
Yeah,
really want them to prove us otherwise. We want them to
true.
actually show us that no, we have confidence in your backing us. Like in you guys backing us. We're confident and we're going to go out there and produce good football and see how far we can reach. We don't want them to
Yeah,
win the Champions League. If they win, all well and good. But we
yeah,
know we are not at that stage yet.
yeah, yeah,
So just go as far as you can and show us that you're pushing.
yeah,
It shouldn't be one of those things where we have to complain about the referee decisions and all that other crap. Nah, go out
yeah,
there, win the games, and then let us, the fans, dissect and tell you that nah, you know what I mean.
yeah.
But yeah, man, feels good to be back.
100%. Good to be back in the Champions League. But thank you guys once again for listening to another episode of the Glory Reds FC. We recently just uploaded a podcast. Go listen to it. Very good listen. We have our boy Benito going off on the club with all the nonce that is happening. So be sure to have a listen to it. It's a great episode. Tomorrow, obviously, we're going to be doing a match preview. Got a big match coming this weekend. Arsenal FC, sorry, versus
Woo!
Manchester United. It's going to be a hot one. It's going to be a hot episode. So be sure to tune into that as well. We're also
Yo,
going to be recording our session for fantasy as well. I'm sure you guys have been working on your teams. I've been working on my team. I've really made a couple of changes, which we'll discuss about tomorrow. I'm thinking about taking a hit. It's gonna be an epic episode tomorrow. Ben is looking to use his wild card, so yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
yeah,
So
man.
yeah, did you want to say something real quick before I,
I
I, I do our normal
actually,
wrap up?
It actually slipped my mind, but it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah. All right. No, we'll catch you guys tomorrow. And don't forget to catch us on your favorite podcasting streaming platforms. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Zencaster, Castbox, Amazon Music. Man, we everywhere. Spreaker. Just go and
One
type
time.
Going Red FC and you'll find us. Don't forget to join our community so we can continue this conversation. Jump onto our website. Got a couple of blogs up there. Interesting read. You can also find the links to our community and all our social media platforms on our website. And with that being said, we out. Peace.